Welcome to the Ringer NFL show. Sheil Kapadia here with Steven Ruiz. We have a theme in week 3. I think we have a theme in week 3, and that theme is backup quarterbacks. I think we've already got 5 of them. Jake Browning for the Bengals, Carson Wentz for the Vikings, Tyrod Taylor for the Jets. We think Marcus Mariota for the Commanders, and we think Mac Jones for the 49ers. So who better to have on to talk about some of these backup quarterbacks than Steven Ruiz? Ruiz, who is the most entertaining? Like the guy you're just like, I'm going to tune in to see what that guy does on Sunday if you had to choose one.
I was going to say that's a tricky answer because you have to weigh between like performance, like how good they are and how entertaining they are for maybe like bad reasons. So I got to go with Carson Wentz. Like who doesn't love the Carson Wentz meltdown? It's always good.
Carson Wentz is the correct answer. Yeah, that's who I would go with, whether for better or worse, and we can get into that. But I think it's going to be an adventure either way. So we're going to talk about these guys who can keep their offenses afloat, who's the most interesting, what we're looking for. We'll do all that when we come back. This is the Ringer NFL show presented by FanDuel, and the NFL is officially back. So if you're going to be in it with FanDuel. They've got the goods, futures, live betting, SGPs, your way bets, all of it. The app's clean, it's fast, and yeah, when you win, you get paid instantly, which is nice because Sunday patience doesn't exist. So get your bets in, build something bold, and make every game feel bigger. Download the FanDuel app or head to FanDuel.com/RingerNFL to get started. The Ringer is committed to responsible gaming. Please visit rg-help.com to learn more about the resources and helplines available, and listen to the end of the episode for additional details. Must be 21 plus and present in select states, or 18 plus and present in DC, Kentucky, or Wyoming. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. Paid endorsement. All right, we're back on the Ringer NFL show. So let's start by doing this, Ruiz. Ranking 1 to 5, just based on, because the backup quarterback's job is like, try to keep the offense afloat and give your team a chance to win. We're not expecting these guys to be, throw for 400 yards or anything like that. So if you had to rank them based on kind of what they're being asked to do, taking their situation into account, Browning, Mac Jones, Tyrod Taylor, Mariota, and Wentz, how would you rank them 1 to 5 based on how confident you are? And I did the same thing. So let's see where we disagree.
Yeah, I think I would go with Mac Jones first, just because I think he's the one, the most obvious system fit. I would go with Jake Browning second. We're probably gonna get into my reasoning for this. That's why I'm not really explaining it. We're gonna go with Jake Browning second, just because we've seen it. We've seen the Bengals offense exist with Jake Browning, and it worked. And then I'll go Marcus Mariota based on the small sample size we have. Seen him last year come in for Jaden Daniels, and then. And then the last two, like either way, I don't think it makes much of a difference with those two. So that would be my order. And I feel very confident in saying Mac Jones, I would say. I think it's a gap between him and the rest of the guys.
Okay, I had Mac Jones first as well, and I was going back and forth going, wait, do I actually believe this? So we'll talk about him in a second. I had Browning 2. I had Tyrod Taylor and Mariota flipped. I want to talk about We've talked about the Mariota thing before, so I want to get into that. Now we maybe get a bigger sample of him in that offense. And then I had Carson Wentz last. But why don't we start with Mac Jones? Because you said you feel like he's first, and then there's kind of a gap after him. Obviously, Mac Jones played last week. I thought he played pretty well, especially for a backup. They beat the New Orleans Saints, and now they get the Cardinals at home, and the Cardinals secondary is pretty banged up. What did you kind of see from Mac Jones in his first start in that Shanahan system?
I think we saw what we wanted to see out of Mac Jones, what we thought we would see back in 2021 when Mac Jones was, floated as Kyle Shanahan's favorite quarterback prospect of all time or whatever, the best fit for Shanahan's scheme ever.
What a time that was, by the way.
Oh, what a draft. 2021, the quarterback debates. And none of them mattered. That's the best part is that none of them mattered. They were all bad. But I do think we saw sort of a similar situation that we see with when Jake Browning has gotten into the lineup for the Bengals. Like, obviously, Brock Purdy's a better quarterback than Mac Jones. And I think Joe Burrow is a better quarterback than Jake Browning, but the offense just functions in a way that I think is more closely aligned to what the coaches want. And I think you could have said that about Brock Purdy 2 years ago when he was really operating the offense at a high level. But we saw last year, he kind of took things into his own hands more often. The scramble rate went up, time to throw went up. And it wasn't really the Brock Purdy we had seen in 2023. But I think Mac Jones kind of gave you something closer to that style of quarterback play. And it really allowed the 49ers to flourish in the way that you would expect it to flourish with Kyle Shanahan calling the plays.
Yeah, he was 26 for 39, 279 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 3 sacks. There are little moments in there where you're like, all right, I could see like a 3 turnover game coming if he has to play for a month type thing. At least I thought with Mac Jones and some accuracy stuff. But overall, you're right. He had this slow start and then he kind of settled in. And I think Shanahan, if he had to, you hooked him up to the lie detector. He wants a robot. I think we all know he but then he was like, well, do I want a robot or some of these other guys in the system have some creativity? Those Aaron Rodgers years with the Packers, and Purdy was doing some of that last year. But I think certainly for a backup, Shanahan's like, just do what I tell you to do, get the ball where it's supposed to go. And I thought Purdy did a nice job there. It was a 69th percentile game based on EPA per pass play, 51st percentile game based on success rate against the Saints. So it's really keep the offense afloat. You have Shanahan, you still have McCaffrey, and do the things you're supposed to do. So yeah, if he indeed does play, Purdy, I think they haven't ruled out completely yet, but I think the expectation is that Mac Jones is going to play against that Cardinals defense. I'm with you. I would expect him to play pretty well, given the setup there. And then Browning was the other guy you mentioned. I remember we've had these conversations before, and it's certainly true that Zach Taylor, it feels like, he's like, all right, Burrow's out of there. I could do, let me cook a little bit. I can do the things I want to do. You've certainly brought that up before with Jake Browning.
Yeah. And I certainly don't think that Jake Browning is a better quarterback than Joe Burrow. And I don't think the Bengals are in better shape over long term, because there's always an expiration date when you're doing things that are dependent on scheme more so than talent. And that's going to be the case with Jake Browning. But in the short term, I do think it's going to give the offense a little bit of a boost. We're going to see them go under center more. That's what we saw when Jake Browning played in 2023. We're going to see more screen passes that it gets the ball in Jamar Chase's hands immediately. You're going to see, I think, more play action shots. You're going to see less of the spread stuff that puts a lot of strain on the offensive line, which I think is like the under-discussed thing with Joe Burrow. PFF Timo Risky, the PFF analyst, had a good thread on this where he was basically pointing out that like what makes Burrow so special is that you could put that strain on the offensive line in the pass game where the defense knows, like, we got to be in pass rush mode. We got to play coverages that are, you're selling out, not to stop the run, but to stop the pass. And Burrow could still operate play after play after play, which is like very rare in this league. And it helps the Bengals tremendously, but it does make the offensive line's job a lot harder. Like, it's harder to be an offensive lineman when you're not running play action, when there's no threat of the run. Or it's not that there's not a threat of the run, it's that you're more worried about the pass. So I think the offensive line will perform better. I think he'll get cleaner pockets than you would have seen with Joe Burrow. I think where it's going to hurt is when they go up against the good defenses that could scheme that stuff away. And then you don't have Joe Burrow, in the drop back game to kind of fall back on. But I do expect to see a different style of offense. And maybe Zach Taylor will be able to cook a little bit.
Yeah, we definitely saw that in 2023. Their play action rate went up, and you're right. I mean, offensive line play, if you can go under center, run play action, not pass at such a high rate. I mean, even last year, their pass rate was crazy on early downs. And to your point, they made it work. They had a very good offense. If you have Joe Burrow, you can make it work. But I think without him, you got to change some stuff up. You're probably going to have to try to get that run game going a little bit more on early downs, using play action on early downs. But I mean, Browning, of all these guys, as a backup, has had like the most extended run, where he had that 7-game run in 2023. And it wasn't bad. If just statistically, he was kind of middle of the pack. Their offense finished 11th in DVOA. And so I think if you're a Bengals fan, like, I don't think they're going to stay afloat just because their schedule's really hard the rest of the way. But you can talk yourself into, hey, maybe we can hover around 500 by the time Joe Burrow comes back. But man, going to Minnesota against Brian Flores in this spot is not going to, it could get ugly for Jake Browning right away.
Yeah, and that's going to be rough because it's going to be the first time we see him. So I just think Bengals fans are going to be like, oh God, we're done. We're cooked. And like, no, I don't think you can base anything based on what it looks like against the Brian Flores defense. I think Zach Taylor is kind of preemptively, he's got out ahead of this by being like, nobody else does what the Vikings defense does. This is like a very unique situation and game plan for them. And he was also asked about like the schematic changes. He kind of downplayed it and was like, well, we really asked the quarterback what they want. And when Browning's the backup, they still kind of ask him what he would like, even when Burrow is healthy, because there's a chance that he's going to play. And he was saying like, it's usually not that different, but like Zach, we could see the difference in the play calling, and it's like the numbers. Drastic. Yeah.
No doubt about it. All right, let's take a break. We come back. I want to talk about the other quarterback in that game because it's Bengals Vikings, and you mentioned Carson Wentz at the top. And to me, I think this is the most intriguing of all these guys. So let's take a break and talk about Carson Wentz. The Ringer NFL show is brought to you by FanDuel. And FanDuel is turning up the heat every Sunday with Power Hour, the ultimate live betting window where the action is wild and the rewards are even better. Here's how it works. Every Sunday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern, FanDuel is giving you a profit boost to use on live bets during the most intense stretch of the NFL slate. This is when games flip, underdogs rally, parlays hit. It's your Power Hour on FanDuel. Open the FanDuel app between 3 and 5 p.m. Eastern. Claim your profit boost and make your move while the action unfolds every Sunday, only on FanDuel. Head to FanDuel.com/RingerNFL to get started. Must be 21 plus and present in select states or 18 plus and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. Opt-in required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. All right, we're back on the Ringer NFL show. I was just thinking, Ruiz, I didn't think that this season I was going to be saying, let's take a break and come back and talk about Carson Wentz. If you would have asked me in like July or August, I didn't think that was going to be part of the conversation this year. But J.J. McCarthy out for 2 to 4 weeks with an ankle injury. Vikings host the Bengals. Vikings traded Sam Howell in the summer, signed Carson Wentz. And Wentz has been everywhere. I mean, I was just thinking earlier today, what a bizarre career from with the Eagles. Goes 11-2 in their first Super Bowl season in franchise history. Then a couple more injury-riddled seasons. Disaster in 2020. Gets traded to the Colts. Then goes to Washington. Then starts a game for the Rams in 2023. Then starts a game for the Chiefs last year when it didn't matter in Week 18. Now in his age 33 season, and per The Athletic, first quarterback in NFL history to start at least one game for 6 different teams in 6 seasons. And I think what's most interesting is that this is the team where we talked a lot about Sam Darnold last year and kind of the coaching and the setup. So what do you think? How does this go? I mean, he's the hardest guy to predict on here. I feel like the other guys are a little bit easier with the range of outcomes. Carson Wentz, I'm not exactly sure what we're going to get from him.
Yeah, that's why it was tough for me to separate him and Tyrod, just because like I think those guys are most like the players they're replacing. Yes, that's probably, I don't know if that's more insulting to Carson Wentz or JJ McCarthy based on how JJ McCarthy started the season. But I think there is a clear difference. And I think you can make the case that Sam Darnold and Carson Wentz kind of have a similar thing going on.
I agree with
you
that.
Can see the physical talent is there, but like you don't really trust them to make the decisions, especially in the pocket, the deeper you get into a play. But I think the key difference, especially like as it pertains to how it's going to affect the Vikings offense, is that Sam Darnold will like hold on to the ball a little extra. He's not necessarily going to move. He's doing it to like make a throw downfield, and he's going to take a hit. I think Carson Wentz is going to try to move, buy himself time, find a clean platform, and then make that throw. And that's when disaster usually ensues with him. So I think that it's not going to look anything. I'm not going to make the same argument I made for Sam Darnold before the season last year compared to JJ McCarthy. But I think there could be some improvement because it's a better version of what we've seen from McCarthy early on, where McCarthy is kind of holding on to the ball a little bit too long. His accuracy isn't what you want to see out of a quarterback. I think there's questions about like the types of throws he can make downfield, like whether he has that dynamic ability to like layer the football and stuff like that. So I think Kevin O'Connell's going to be dealing with the same issues that he was kind of dealing with, scheming around JJ McCarthy. My question is like, how much does like the veteran factor kind of help him out there? And I don't know, because it's Carson Wentz, and we really haven't seen him play a lot of football since he was in Washington. But the last time we saw him play football, that man could lose a football game in an instant.
I hadn't thought about that Darnold Wentz comp. I actually like that a lot. It's like, to steal your term, they got a little bozo in them for sure. And you don't trust them. And there could be, if you're watching Red Zone or something, all right, let's go to Minnesota. And they're just like, Carson Wentz tries to buy time or scramble. And oh my gosh, throws into, like, you could just picture that. That was always sort of in his game. And I wonder, like, I feel like when he was early in his career, he was so confident in just his physical abilities, and that ended up being a negative because he had injuries and he's still trying to scramble, and then he's taking on more hits. It's like, no, you don't have that anymore. Like, you shouldn't be doing that. I wonder what this version of him looks like at age 33. What does he look like physically? Because he could run, he could scramble when he was younger before all those injuries. The arm is strong. The physical tools have been there. He's played a lot of football, to your point. The difference with JJ McCarthy, like, he's seen a lot of coverages and blitzes and nose protections and all those things. So it's a weird mix of all these things. He's been in these different systems too, where it's just like, I don't think it's going to go great, but I also want to see just what it looks like.
Yeah, I think this is a better measure of like the Kevin O'Connell quarterback whisperer thing. Like, it obviously hasn't worked on JJ McCarthy through 2 games, but I think the rookie factor is the thing we're kind of ignoring with like the reclamation project thing, because Sam Darnold had obviously played a lot of football and seen a lot of things. Like, even the backups he was dealing with the year before that, Josh Dobbs, who he elevated, Nick Mullins, he kind of got more out of. Those guys had played football and you could do different things. I think with Carson Wentz back there, even if he is like as unreliable as JJ McCarthy has been, which is probably harsh for Carson Wentz, I think they're just going to be able to do more stuff with him. So I do think it's going to improve. I just don't know if it's going to improve in a meaningful way. And I think the other part of this is that, like, the environment isn't as good as we thought it would be due to injury for the most part. The offensive line, Darisaul's not in there. Obviously, Ryan Kelly went out of the Sunday night game. So I think that's another factor. And it's hard to have high expectations, but it's also hard to just have any expectations because we haven't seen Wentz, as we said.
Yeah, those O-line injuries could be a big deal. I mean, we'll see if their left tackle, Christian Darisaul, comes back. But if he doesn't come back, their backup was also injured. So now are they going to have a third string left tackle in this game? And then Ryan Kelly, that's just kind of a scary situation. The center. This is his 4th documented concussion, I believe. So you got to obviously treat that very carefully and see what the future holds for him. But to your point, the offseason narrative was, hey, they fixed their interior. This could be a really good offensive line. And here we are in week 3, and it doesn't look like that's what, Carson Wentz is going to be playing behind. So we'll see what that looks like. Let's talk about Marcus Mariota, because you and I last year, I'm saying Jaden Daniels is making everyone else look good. And you're saying, no, he's not. The scheme's helping him out. And then I looked bad because Marcus Mariota comes in against the Panthers and puts up like a 40-burger. And I'm like, damn it.
It's Carolina, though.
Yeah, it was against Carolina. So I'm like, it was against Carolina. Settle down. But now we might get to see him again against the Las Vegas Raiders if Jaden Daniels cannot go in this game. What are your expectations for Mark? Because it's kind of like the Vikings. It's not the same offense for the Commanders as it was last year. For the Commanders, you could argue it's upgraded at some of these spots. What's your confidence level that he can make it look like some version like you made it look last year?
Not nearly as high as it was last year when he came in. He also came in the Week 18 game against Dallas and kind of led them back after Daniels had kind of struggled in the first half. But we have seen early on that I think like the schematic advantages that Cliff had kind of sprung on the league just because they hadn't seen him really, after the Thailand trip. Who knows what happened in Thailand? But the guy, like, I don't know. Maybe he learned some more ball or something. But he came back and obviously had something that defensive coordinators couldn't handle. But so far early in the season, we haven't seen it provide those same benefits. And I think Jaden Daniels made it work in week 1 because of the scramble thing. And I just think he has, like, outside of Lamar Jackson, he has like the best ejector button. Like when he wants to get outside the pocket, he just teleports outside of the pocket. And Mariota, like, he's a decent runner, but he doesn't have that. He doesn't have generational speed. So I'm a little concerned that he doesn't have that superpower to kind of supplement the scheme if it's if it is figured out. I mean, it's only a 2-week sample size. I don't know. They went up against Green Bay, which could be the best defense in the NFL. But watching the film back, there wasn't really a lot open on field on the film, and I thought there were some schemes that Green Bay used, that Halfley used, that could be replicable for other teams. Like I thought we saw a lot of like cover 2. We saw a lot of like Tampa 2 invert, where like the safety starts in the middle of the field and ends up as like the middle linebacker type guy. So I do wonder how Cliff is going to adjust. We never really saw him have to adjust last year. And I think he's going to have to do that. He's going to have to do it without his starting quarterback. And it kind of sucks for Mariota that he's like the guinea pig that has to figure that stuff out.
It's kind of like a running theme. And I'm like, I don't trust him. Like, I don't trust him to play well here. He fumbles a lot. He's got accuracy issues. He takes a lot of sacks, but we'll see. Their offensive line is, theoretically better than last year. We'll see what they get from Deebo Samuel as well. But this will be kind of another data point in the scheme versus Jaden versus Cliff versus what's actually making stuff work there in Washington. And who knows? We might be having that conversation a lot this season if they have more offensive performances like they had last week. Let's finish on Tyrod Taylor. I'm with you. It's not that interesting, really. I don't know that a lot changes. He can run a little. He's going to take shots downfield, and he's less mistake prone than Justin Fields. So I actually don't know. Like, their offense obviously didn't look very good last year. Fields was very good in week 1. How do you see this working out for the Jets with Tyrod Taylor?
I think if you would have asked me this question a week ago, I would have been more pessimistic about this move, just because of like how Justin Fields played in that first game. And like we saw like meaningful improvement in areas where we needed to see it, like in terms of pocket presence and getting the ball out on time and throwing accurately to the intermediate parts of the field. But we kind of saw some regression last week against the Bills, where he took a bad sack in the pocket when guys were open. He missed a couple throws downfield. He did have a couple of impressive throws down in there too, but overall, I thought it wasn't an encouraging performance for Justin Fields. And I think we're going to see, some of the same with Tyrod Taylor. He's another guy that like we've only seen sparingly over the years. It's been a long time since he's been a full-time starter, but like that was the book on him for the most part, was he's going to hold on to the ball a little bit longer. I think he's more accurate than Justin Fields, but that's not saying much. I don't think he's like accuracy is like a strength or anything like that. But I do think he gives you a little bit of like the Jalen Hurts package, where like he does throw a good deep ball, a catchable deep ball, more so than even Justin Fields, who has a bigger arm but doesn't have like the touch and like the timing that Tyrod Taylor or a guy like Jalen Hurts has on it. He still adds some value in the run game. Again, not to the extent that Justin Fields does, but you get something. Like, defenses have to account for him pulling the ball in the zone read. So I can see him keeping the offense afloat. And I think I said this when we were doing predictions on the preseason thing. Yeah. Like, if he gets in there, and I thought he would get in there because Justin Fields tends to get hurt, like, I could see the coaches being like, this is a steadier hand that we could, we can rely on week to week to be more consistent. Maybe we just stick with this and kind of hope that our defense can kind of carry us the rest of the way. I don't know if that's the case with the defense based on what we've seen so far, but I wouldn't be surprised if like the performance you get an uptick in performance, or at least consistency.
Yeah, because consistency for sure. Because Fields, last year looked a little bit more like the old Fields. Week 1, he had a career game. They're 6.5-point underdogs at Tampa. I'm glad you mentioned the defense, because it's like that whole formula they want to play with. If your defense stinks, which it has been terrible, the first 2 weeks, it's, I know they played the Bills last week, but like, if that's what it is, you can't really play the whole let's run the ball and, win ugly type thing if your defense is getting gashed.
Aaron Rodgers is back content last week. I resent them for it.
How dare they? Yeah, that is seriously. What are you doing, Jets? You're messing it up for the rest of us. So we'll see what that looks like for the Jets offense there in Tampa. Tampa banged up with their offensive line. All right, backup quarterbacks, 5 of them, we think, in week 3. That will be the story. There will be some comedy. Maybe there will be some surprises. Maybe there will be some takes if some of these guys play well. So it will be fun. I use the term loosely. It will be fun to watch in week 3. Thank you to Steven Ruiz for joining us. I'll be back in a minute with the hurry up, making my Ringer 107 picks. This episode is brought to you by Little Caesars, the official pizza sponsor of the NFL. At Little Caesars, the pizzas are always large, so you'll always get more bite for less buck on game day. I'm not high maintenance. I'm a simple guy. Just give me a plain cheese, like they said, large. Eat it all day, eat it for lunch, come back, have a little slice later in the afternoon for dinner. I mean, what's better than that? And right now you can get 15% off orders over $15 on NFL game days with code GAMEDAY. Order now at littlecaesars.com or in the Little Caesars app. Offer ends February 8th, 2026. Offer good at participating Little Caesars stores, on app and online orders, excluding third-party online sites, with an online purchase of $15 or more. Only available on NFL game days. Enter promo code at checkout to get 15% off your online order. Max discount $5. Limit one person per day. Cannot be combined with any other offers, plus tax where applicable. Prices may vary. Delivery available from participating locations with online orders only. Copyright 2025 LCE Incorporated. All right, we're back with the hurry up, and it's Friday. That means the Ringer 107. Today's Ringer 107 is brought to you by FanDuel. Hopefully, you know by now, every Friday at the end of the show, I give my 5 picks for this contest, competing against other podcasts here at the Ringer. 2-3 last week, not great. 4-6 on the season, not great, but no one's running away with this thing. Everyone's either 4-6 or 5-5. So let's get a couple winning weeks here with these picks. So let's start off. I'm taking the 49ers minus 2.5 against the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona's secondary is really banged up. They put Garrett Williams, their best cornerback, on IR. It doesn't look like they'll have rookie corner Will Johnson. 49ers probably going with Mac Jones, as we talked about earlier in the show, although Brock Purdy hasn't completely been ruled out. But Jones was fine last week against New Orleans. Now, is there a chance he has like 3 turnovers in this game? And I question, why did I pick Mac Jones in this contest? Of course, but I think 49ers will be able to move the ball, and I think they can cover that 2.5. So that's the pick. First pick of the week. All right, second pick of the week, Browns plus 7.5 against the Green Bay Packers. Yes, I might regret this one, but everyone loves the Packers right now. Hot team. Everyone's saying they're the team to beat in the NFC. And I think this Browns team is well coached. I think they got some good pieces on defense that can be disruptive. Myles Garrett's probably playing better than any defensive player in football through 2 weeks. Maybe they force a turnover or two. Maybe they make life a little bit harder on Jordan Love and that Packers offense. So Love has played really well, but he's not going to make those second reaction plays like Lamar Jackson did last week. I just think it's a big number. I don't think the Browns are winning this football game, but I just think it's a big number. Joe Flacco, what could go wrong? I've got Browns plus 7.5 as my second pick. All right, third pick. Give me the Chiefs minus 5.5 at the Giants. Now, this might be a square pick, I understand, but come on. Are the Chiefs really going to go 0-3? To start the season? I don't think so. I don't think they even played that poorly last week. They were just off on some big plays offensively against the Eagles. I know Russell Wilson put up big numbers last week. I think it's going to be up and down with him. And defensively, they are 30th in EPA per drive through 2 weeks. So I'm not asking the Chiefs to score 40. I just need them to win by 6 points. All right, 2 more to get to. Give me the Ravens minus 5.5 against the Lions on Monday night. I know the Lions looked great last week. I just don't know that their defense is up to the challenge of stopping Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, a Ravens offense that has scored 81 points through the first 2 weeks of the season. So they've picked up right where they left off last year. There's also a chance that the Lions offense looks good once again, but I like the Ravens here at home, Monday Night Football, minus 5.5. And finally, give me the Cowboys plus 1.5 at the Chicago Bears. I took the Cowboys last week. It did not work out for me, but their offense has looked really good through 2 weeks. Chicago, they're down multiple starters on defense. They're down multiple cornerbacks on defense. And so I think the Cowboys can move the football here. So Cowboys plus 1.5, Ravens minus 5.5, Chiefs minus 5.5, Browns plus 7.5, and 49ers minus 2.5. Today's Ringer 107 was brought to you by FanDuel. Odds subject to change. All right. Thanks to everyone for listening. Thank you to Christopher Sutton for producing. Kiera Givens on social. Additional production supervision by Conor Nevins and Arjuna Ramgopowell. I'll be back Monday morning breaking down the biggest Week 3 storylines on the Ringer NFL Show. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C., Kentucky, or Wyoming. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 1-888 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.